Hello and welcome to my September wrap up. It feels so weird to be saying that. I feel like it's so much earlier in the year, but there we are. So I had a lot of plans for what I was going to read in September, and I didn't manage to read all that many of them. So I read 6 books last month, which is still a really cool number. Like, it's still, if you read 6 books a month, that's like 72 books in a year, which is still amazing. For me though, that's like the lowest I've read for maybe 3-4 years in a month. So yeah, it's not what I'm used to, it's not what I was expecting. But September was a really full-on month for me. There were lots and lots of things going on, and I just didn't really have the energy physically to be reading much. I do a lot of my reading at the end of the day, and essentially by the time I was managing to make it to bed, I was too tired to read. I'd get a page and then fall asleep. So these things happen, you know, hobbies have to be a part of life. They can't always take everything over. But let's talk about what I did read and how I thought of those books. So the first thing that I read at the start of the month was Stay by Brianna Michaels. This is book 4 in the Next Level series, and this is one that I was targeting because the Next Level series is on my series that I'm trying to read a book a month until I finish them. So this series is all super spicy, super low angst romance, and this one was Second Chance. So 2 people that had been together at college but had gone their separate ways at the end and had a chance to reconnect through his work. So she basically had a project that she wanted him to be the designer for. You've got a few different things going on as well, like there is a plot about the company that he works for and the conditions that he is working under, things like that, but mostly it is just a lot of spice with it. So generally I had a good time with it. I really like this series. It's really good fun. It's nice because, you know, it's not gonna like make you sad or anything like that. The one thing I will say is that this book has daddy kink in it, which isn't for me. And I knew that going in. I still wanted to read it, and there have been some books that I have been okay-ish with that have it, but there's never one that I have like, it does take away my enjoyment of the book. So that said, I still gave it 4 stars because I like the concept of the book in general, and you know, I had a lot of fun with it. So that was definitely a personal reason for ranking it slightly lower than the rest of the series, but very much looking forward to continuing with book 5 in the near future. So then, also on the theme of continuing series that are on my target list, I then read Possessed by a Dark Warrior by Felicity Heaton, which is book 9 in the Eternal Mates series. And this one was between an elf and a dragon, which I loved. The dragon, she was absolutely amazing. She basically had known for years and years and years that this elf was her mate, but also they were enemies. Like, the dragons and the elves, big enemies. So every time that she came across him, it was really hard for her because she was like, that's my mate, but also he's trying to kill me. So that was obviously a bit of a drama for them to get over. And I guess a look at the whole thing of how each of them realise that someone is their fated mate and what goes alongside it. It was really funny because the guy who's the main character has been in most of the other books and had basically the whole series been mocking people for being really super territorial over their mates once they realise who they are, and for all their different behaviours. And some of those other characters definitely got their digs in. I think personally a bit too much sometimes, but I really did like kind of the route that they went through for their differences, and the kind of bigger world plot was kind of cool as well. So yeah, definitely enjoyed this one, and I gave it 4.25 stars. And then I started another series, which yes, generally I'm trying not to do, but in this case it was because I was reading the oldest book on my physical TBR, which was Hooked by Emily McIntyre, which is the first book in the Never After series. So these are inspired by fairy tales, but they are dark romances. And like, it is very much inspired by. So there are going to be characters that are recognisable from the fairy tales, but they're not going to follow the story, and they're not going to have like true to life type things. But this one in this case is a romance between Wendy and Hook. So yeah, and Wendy is Peter's daughter. So we've obviously got some immediate changes from Peter Pan, but the concept of it was really cool. This is a dark romance. It says in the contents at the start that it is a villain who is the hero, and he is still going to be a villain at the end of the book. He doesn't like have some magical redemption, which, do you know what, I kind of like the honesty of, because it is slightly annoying when you've got some guy who's like the all-powerful big bad, and then he decides just because he gets some from the heroine that he's gonna be good. Like, probably not gonna happen. So you have to very much go into this knowing what you're getting. I absolutely flew through this. I think I read it within like the course of a day. So given how little I was reading sometimes, I think that shows it's very much that sort of style of writing that you can just get into and keep going. I think with books like this, for me, there's always going to be some things that I really like and some things that I'm a little bit rolling my eyes at, but that's fine. Like, I think if you know what you're going into, that's not a problem. So I gave this one a solid 4 stars, and I will definitely be continuing the series because it was just a good time, you know? It's not something that I'm going to be there going, this is my favourite series, but it was definitely enjoyable, and I like some more enjoyable, please. So then I went completely rogue. So in a month where I had been reading very slowly, I thought, do you know what I need to do? I need to read a book that is not on my TBR in the slightest. So I read Fighting for Control by J.J. Arias, which is book 2 in the Dominion series. So these are sapphic contemporary romances based around this PR agency called Dominion. I can't even think when it was, I want to say like a couple of years ago now, but I read the first book in the series and really loved that. I think that was Out of Control maybe. And yeah, for some reason I just fancied picking this one up, so knowing very, very little about it. So this one is an enemies to lovers type of situation, except the enemies was kind of heightened by a hookup that had happened a little while back. So they're both very aware that there's the chemistry there, they just have personality differences, and also a lot of trust issues, both of them, not just with the other person, but in general. They have problems asking for help or asserting their boundaries and things like that. The two characters, they both work in the same building, but for different companies. So you've got one who's quite junior in the PR company that this series is based around, and then another who is a lawyer in the law company in the building. And essentially they crash cars with each other and cause a lot of problems in the building. And the person who owns the building says that they have to do anger management together, or both their companies are going to get thrown out. So we have a nice little bit of forced proximity that happens with two people who had previously obviously hooked up. And so yeah, things to go from there. I really enjoyed it. I can be so hit and miss with contemporary romance, and I have no idea why, but something just went, hey, that's what I want to read next. So obviously that's the way to do it. So I read this one 4.25. Definitely was just a really enjoyable read, and I now really want to get to the third and final book in this series, so I have got it now on my TBR for this month. So we'll see if I get to that one or whether it has to wait again until it's a random mood read. Who knows? So then I read an advanced copy of a book that I had. So this was Touch the Sky by Katia Rose, which is the second book in the Balsam Inn series. These are sapphic contemporary romances again, but these ones are like a small town cozy vibe. And the series as a whole is based around 3 friends, although 2 of them are cousins as well, who open an inn together. And what we've got in this one is our main character, who is involved in opening this inn, is also struggling with her own family business. It's just her and her mum that are running it, and her mum's not well, and so she's having to do pretty much everything in the farm that they have, look after all the animals, the business, everything like that. And then we have their new farrier who comes to check on their horses, who is new in the area. They have a super hilarious meet cute involving the most stubborn donkey, which it just cracks me up. Like, these books, they just make me smile. I don't know, they're really fun. And so she is a single parent, which adds an interesting dynamic to it. And yeah, you've got 2 people who they hit it off, but neither of them feels that they can be in a relationship. So you've got one who's basically saying like she's too busy, she's got too much work, she's got too much of this, and you've got one who's saying that she can't do that to her daughter, basically. I will say her daughter is like 1 or 2 years younger than my daughter, so there were quite a few attitude references that were quite familiar, so that was quite funny. But yeah, I love being back in this town, this friendship group. The characters were so cute and I very much enjoyed myself. And yeah, I gave this one a 4.5 stars. So I think there's going to be one more book in this series for the 3rd person who is involved, and I will be very excited to read that when that is available. And then the 6th and final book that I read in the month was The Untold Story by Genevieve Cogman, which is book 8 in the Invisible Library series. So I was supposed to be reading 3 books in the month for my finishing series project, and this was the only one that I managed to read. I literally finished it on the 30th of September. I was just there the last couple of days going, come on, I've got to finish at least one in the month. But yeah, I did. So that was exciting. I started this series so long ago, like maybe 2016, something like that. I don't know. Even like this book, I think came out maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And at the time that it came out, I think I was basically up to date with the series. So I've definitely been sleeping on it for a while, but I finally did it. So in this series, we have got lots of alternate versions of the world that each exist in a different degree of chaos or order. Those that tend towards the chaos are more heavily populated with fae. Those that tend on the extreme order side are more with dragons. And then in the middle of it all, you have this library that keeps the balance. So it stops all the different worlds becoming too powerful or not powerful enough so that they get lost in the mix. And it does this by stealing books. So unique books that for some reason have only appeared on one of the worlds or have a different ending in one of the worlds, things like that. These librarians will go out and they will steal a copy of the book to take it back to the library. Obviously, a bunch of stuff has happened in the first 7 books in the series, and the characters, I just really love the characters. Like, they are such a great bunch. They've got their own little quirks and their ways of doing things that just balance each other so well. I think for me, this was my least favourite book in the series. Obviously, I don't remember exactly to compare to the others, but I do tend to have a problem with series endings anyway. Like, there's so many times that I've loved a series and then the ending's just been like, not quite right for me. But I think in this one, the magic of the series for me has always been in their little detective style little investigations, or them sneaking around trying to work out how they're going to get the book, or going to see the different worlds and making sure that they're like dressed appropriately, and all the little quirks like that are for me the joy of the books. There was obviously less of that because it was more about how are we going to save the worlds and the universe and everything else. And there were certain things that, I don't know, happened very quickly. There was a lot of building up to things, and then the actual event happened super quick. But I very much loved being back in the concept of it and being back with these characters. So overall, I gave it 4 stars, so very solid. If you're not familiar with my rating system, which to be honest is mostly vibes, then if it is 4 or above, then it is a book that I would consider recommending to other people. If it's less than 4, it's not a book I'm likely to recommend. But yeah, so nice and solid, and you know what, I'm really glad that I read it. I can't believe it took me so long. And that's another series that is finished for my project and my list as a whole. So there is a chance that I might manage to reduce my number of series. I mean, I started one and finished one, but there's still a chance, right? Please. Anyway, it'll be fine. So that was the 6 books that I read in September. Obviously, the lower number has then influenced my plans for October. But so far, it's looking to be a pretty enjoyable month this month. Let me know what your favourite read was of September, and if you have got any thoughts on any of the books that I have mentioned, and I will see you soon. Bye!